A fantastic Sunday evening to you wherever you are. Well, of course, if you are in a time zone where it's night or morning, that too. But to those who are in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the rest of the Eastern Caribbean, or you're in the on the north of the Atlantic or North Atlantic, yeah, okay. I'm not sure what that means, but if you're in the U.S., North America, or you're in South America this afternoon, good afternoon and welcome to this Sunday evening's edition of Sunday Settie. I'm your host, Jan Marshall, and with me, as always, is the brother Richard Byron-Cox. And let's bring him in and say good evening to Richard. Richard, good evening, buddy.
Good evening, Cian. It's good to see you as always. As you can see, I'm a bit wrapped up.
I was about to say, scarf,
It's
I don't tell
really,
it.
it's, it's really quite cold here. I actually put the heat on one for the first time for the season because it's just terribly cold here
I have never
in
seen you. I mean,
Germany.
I've visited you.
So
I visited you before in well, maybe not so much winter, but in springtime and so on. And I've never seen you bundled up. So this is really a new one.
yeah, no,
Seeing you bundled up, it's a new one.
No, it's I'm a little bit afraid that because all day I've been walking around in the school all day, and I know I'll be staying here for 2 hours. So I say, you know what, the best thing to do is sort of to protect myself. You know what I mean? It's in other words, I wouldn't be walking around and keeping my body warm, but I'll be, one place. And so I felt that to protect myself, I should do this, but generally I wouldn't do this. Yeah, it's good to be back on another Sunday evening, afternoon, night, or even probably morning, wherever you are in the
Wherever you are,
world. And
exactly.
we just want to welcome you and I want to say I'm happy to be here wherever you are. We hope that you're having a great Sunday morning, evening, afternoon, night, whatever it is. And yeah, that you're able to join us tonight. And please share, join us, make us know that you're there so we can say hello and if you have a question. But outside of that, share it with everyone, And before you move on, and just to say this, that the Vinci Jewels, and I really like that name. I think that's the right name for the girls, the Jewels. They're on top of the world right now, and they're playing Grenada tonight at 6:30 or something like that, which is
Right,
12:30 our time, or
right.
well, 12:30 my time. So it'll be over by then.
Okay.
And they're playing their nemesis, Grenada, who beat them last time around. They have beaten everybody so far, so it's only Grenada left. So,
And Grenada lost their first match to Antigua. So
right.
Grenada is not unbeaten. Once we beat Grenada, well, as a matter of fact, we are on top. If even if Grenada beat us, it might be a tide or maybe goal difference because I know we
No,
gave
we have much more in terms of goal difference. Their
yes,
goal difference is 202, ours is 260. So we are
right,
58 goals ahead of them as it stands right now.
right.
I'm checking it because, as I say, they have the right name, the Jurors. You can find a better name for that. You know,
You know,
the
like
football
you said,
is
Richard,
Heat, and I just never liked that Vince Heat thing. I don't know why.
mm,
you know,
the ladies have stamped their dominance from day one, even beating St. Lucia in a very close game. That I think St. Lucia led in the first quarter, but they've won all the games. I think they had an invitational game last night versus the Cayman. I'm sure they won that. I didn't get the results from
they
that one.
won. They won. Yeah, they won
Right.
by I think 12 goals in all. I think it ended. I think if I remember 51-64, something like that. But they
Right.
won, right? But
And they
actually,
gave
Cayman
us
was in the first quarter.
well. The thing is, I know Cayman was invitational, was an invited participant to the tournament, so they weren't really uh, um, they're not a part of the tournament. So I don't know if the team took the opportunity to give other players rest some of the key players and bring in other players because I didn't follow the game. But tonight's
Okay.
game is going to definitely be a big matchup. I know they really exerted their dominance against Montserrat, doing a 100 goal game. I think 105
Or
to
beat up some.
18 or something like that.
They took advantage of some people
Yeah,
that I
they took
felt,
advantage. They
felt
really took
soft.
advantage. You
but
know, I was
but they
I was
took
impressed with
advantage.
Antigua this year. This year, though, last year they didn't. they weren't as well. They played much better this year than they did last year. And I know last year, for example, one of our very own Saskia Diamond, who's a former national player of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, was on the Antigua Barbuda team. I think she has moved there. Saskia, a lawyer, and so forth. Um, but uh, I can't remember seeing her this time around. So maybe she didn't participate this time around. But this time they really came out guns blazing, beating the defending champions first game, and I think as it were made it easier for St. Vincent and the Grenadines to emerge champions this year. So I really hope the girls take advantage of that and come out with their best effort tonight, so that they can go through the tournament undefeated.
Now, well, I have been following netball for a while, and I think the history would show that in the sub-region, meaning the OECS, St. Vincent has been pretty dominant. We have not won every tournament, and the others have beaten us time and again. But
Yes.
if you were to count up the numbers, St. Vincent would be way ahead of everybody else. We have really been dominant. And there were times when we really would give Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados a serious fight. We even beat them a couple of times as well. So,
Actually,
you know,
in your following of netball, Richard, because you say Barbados, I think Barbados emerged as far as I can remember, and I've not been following as much as you have, because you always make the point that you're older than I am. But I think Barbados emerged towards the latter part of maybe the 20th century into the 21st century, because before it was just Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica were the ones that we really um, got at the challenge from, that we had difficulty
yeah.
beating. And then all of a sudden, Barbados came out of nowhere. And then you notice teams like St. Lucia and Grenada as well coming up. But it's good to see that they're a young crop of girls, who have taken the mantle with the uh, retirement of people like Skiddy Francis, Crick, and Delarice Duncan, and so forth. Some of the bigger names. You have now younger girls like Marianne Frederick and some of the others. Even um, I see the Coombs twins, who are very young. And I'm talking about people in the early 20s who could probably be on the under 23 team as part of the national team. So that to me is a really good sign for Vincentian netball. And once you could keep that core together and have them playing and be more exposed, we can see St. Vincent netball really going places.
Yeah, I mean, well, you might not know this, but at one time, Trinidad was so dominant that they were in the first two, three in the whole world. You know, there's a complex in Trinidad and Tobago called the Jean Pair Complex, right?
Yes.
And she is that was because of netball. She was Trinidad number one shooter, and at that time, Trinidad was virtually unbeatable anywhere in the Caribbean and ranked with Australia and England, as one of the top three teams in the world. That was how good. And I think uh, I'm saying that to say that West Indian netball, Caribbean netball, has always been at quite a high standard. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are significantly smaller than Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago, and including Barbados as well. Barbados is basically three times the population of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and still we held in those years, late 70s and so on, 80s, St. Vincent held his own. So we've had a history of really good netball players, as you say, Skiddy Francis and all of these people were really, really great players. But it's good now to see, I mean, um, to play like that, you must take your hat off to the young ladies, to the ladies. I mean, unbeaten. And they rough up some people as well. When I say rough them up, I
Yeah,
mean beat them
yeah,
bad,
yeah.
beat them up bad. So it's hats off to them. I just thought we should start off the program with that tonight, and to encourage the girls and let them know that wherever we are as Vincentians, we are following them. I see Miss Joseph Sergeant Brown on the
Joseph,
line.
yeah, Joseph is my cousin. She's on. Patricia is on. Kodjo is on. McGregor is on. Good evening, gentlemen and ladies, or ladies and gentlemen. I'm about to share. I haven't done that yet, so I'm going to do that now.
Right. Once you do
Um,
that, then I will do it as well. I was
yes.
waiting on you because until we have master control. you know.
So I have shared,
Okay, right.
and let me thank all those individuals who share as well, because yeah, when I ask and people do share, I must express my appreciation. Now, I'm not in my usual attire tonight. I usually wear a t-shirt, not sorry, uh, um, a shirt, or maybe something long sleeve and so on. But today, and this is for McGregor, my team, my team, McGregor, my buddy. So my team had a very dominant game yesterday, beating Brighton over Albion, um, 4 goals to 2. And I really got upset with my keeper, because my keeper, who's a former Brighton player, I saw that he wanted to give them the game. But very good game yesterday. So I'm supporting. I'm wearing my t-shirt in support of my team. McGregor, on the other hand, wasn't so lucky, suffering a 3-0 defeat at the hands of Spurs today. Their captain being sent off. I'm talking man, boy, Chester divided, right? McGregor, I'm giving you a whole 15 minutes of my program, and that is the way you respond to my St. Troops. So, Boychester Divided got 3-0 today from Spurs, and so McGregor is not in the best of mood. So he wants me to
Okay.
take off my blue, but I'm supporting blue today. And ain't nobody can
Well,
break my stride.
okay. Well, let me just make this clear. This blue here is not for any football or anything of the sort. I just put on a blue sweater and make everything else tie up in one way or the other, as Cian would say, to keep me warm. So has nothing to do with that, McGregor. And yes, I'll be in
Well,
Canada.
McGregor study me because we have a big Chelsea
No,
jersey. So
he's
that's all
asked
right.
a question online. I'm answering his question online.
Oh, okay.
I will be in Canada probably from the 16th. My aim is to be there latest 17th, and I'll be there until the 3rd of November. So I'll be in Canada for 3 weeks. And thank you, Gregor, and thank everyone else who has been sharing the information about the story of Pauline Bramble. I suppose we'll have a meet about that too, see, and sometime in the show tonight. But it's a lot of hard work to get this book out to the world. And so I want to thank everybody. And you don't just share it within our Vincentian community, because the point is to take it to the world. That's the point. So I really want to thank you in particular, McGregor, because you've always been there supporting this and sharing this and so on. Kojo Mason, I'll be in America to sign your book. Probably not the time I aim for, but rest assured, I will be there to sign both of them. Okay, and everybody else who has gotten a book, I don't think Josette has gotten one yet, Asian. So you should buy one and send it to her, or something like that. She's your cousin. You're always boasting about it. Right?
I'll tell you
So
something.
you should do that.
I tell you
But
something.
yes,
I
thanks
tell you
very
something. I'll tell you something. Let me tell you something about Josette Sargent, my cousin Tika. When Josette is in your corner, she's in your corner. And so
much.
I wouldn't have to buy a book for Josette.
Okay.
And I'm saying that straight up. Josette would, without any suggestion, get your book without a suggest and support your book and support you, because that's the kind of person she is. So I don't worry about Josette at all. She's firmly in your corner. Rochelle, good evening. Thank you so much for joining and share the live. Richard, I must say that since our in studio discussion, you and I,
Yes.
the platform has had some good shows. That particular show was a massive show. The show last week with Annette was also a pretty good show. Lots of people tuned in, individuals who I had not seen, and even Thursday, um, when I was on without a guest, I also had saw um, some new names popping up. As a matter of fact, there was a name I didn't recognize quite well during the show, and the person made a few comments. And it wasn't until after the show I double checked and I saw that the individual was my lecturer, my math lecturer at Teachers College, a gentleman by the name of Sharma, Mr. Sharma, Vijay Sharma. So
Okay.
I really appreciate all of the viewers and all of the new viewers and those who are you know, coming on and saying hello. Thank you so much for supporting this program and being a part of the program. And I really do hope that you find the programs uplifting and enlightening and informative, taking you outside of the regular discussions and really, giving you food for thought, things to challenge your own perspectives. And even if you do not agree with my perspective and my decisions and my own conclusions, at least we're having a discussion and you're challenging yourself to think beyond your own biases, if I want to put it that way. um, you know so I really thank you so much for supporting the program, and I'm going to try and find ways to to allow you to contribute to the program. As a matter of fact, um okay, so just as responded. Silvina, good evening, thank you so much for joining. I'm going to look at expanding the ways that individuals can support the program. Last week Richard mentioned it, and I went back and I checked, and I noticed that Kojo had said that, look, they need to give this guy something for the work that he's doing. I do two programs on this platform, and when Richard was here last week, Richard, you can attest to it. You realize the level of investment I've made to have um, this studio, my investment in lighting and camera and all that stuff and so forth, and subscriptions that I pay to bring this every week. It is not cheap, and as you guys know, I'm not working. I'm a student, so I'm taking resources that should be used towards my living expenses and so on to invest in the program. And so I am exploring the possibility of expanding the way you can support the program so that you could actually offer financial support if you so wish by clicking on a link and offering a donation. So that is something that I'm working to see if it's possible. And if it is, I am going to allow you to. And remember, one of the things that we have these mugs, and if it means that individuals who join the community, for example, get tokens, and whether the token is a mug or whatever, but I would think of ways of rewarding you so that your contributions, your donations, or whatever it is, your subscriptions, are just you don't just think that you're giving something, but rather you would be able to receive tokens from this show, from this platform, um, because of the support that you offer, both in terms of your time and if you do decide to support monetarily as well.
Um, just to say that, well, my own, I've said to CN, and my own purpose here is that I think that there, and I suppose this afternoon we will get into one of those discussions as regards international relations and what is happening in the world. My own purpose here is that I believe the level of discussion and the issues that are discussed needs to be a lot more focused and a lot more serious. And there's no Sunday afternoon television program, I think, in St. Vincent right now. I'm not sure that offer that kind of discussion, And there's so many things that bypass us, and we don't see them. A week ago, the world came this close to a nuclear war, a hair trigger to a nuclear war, and I doubt the majority of Vincentians knew this or know this, but the world actually came that close. And as senile as some say that Joe Biden is, I don't know if it was his decision, but actually it was America that saved the world from nuclear war. Believe this or not. And that's how close we came to this business. When I mean a lot of people, for example, CN, you might hear of a nuclear war. You say, okay, it's between America and Russia, and they will destroy each other. That is true, but listen this. Once you have a nuclear war, what you're going to have is what is called a nuclear winter. What is a nuclear winter? A nuclear winter is that every nuclear bomb, every atomic bomb that explodes, it sends a mushroom into the sky. I don't know if you ever seen these pictures, and it blocks out the sun. Now, life on this planet depends on the sun. The sun is the center of all of our energy. And there's something called photosynthesis, which is where plants use the sunlight, you understand, to create food. And once the sun is blocked out, all photosynthesis cease, you understand. And so we will all die. But outside of that, a nuclear war, those of us who survived the war itself would envy those who died in it. Believe that or not, you know. And so all of these things bypass us as Vincentian, because we don't understand that yes, we are a tiny nation that have very limited or no influence on some of these major issues, but we live in the neighborhood, Sian. You understand?
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
live in the neighborhood, and those who live in what are called violent neighborhoods and what they themselves might not be violent, but they know that that violence will affect them. You understand?
Yeah.
And so therefore, I believe that this Sunday program, I've said so to CN, should be a Sunday program that really and truly discuss serious issues that we as Vincentians, whether we are in St. Vincent or whether we are in Canada or wherever we are in the world, that we make our people aware of these things. And one other thing I want to say, Sian, is that you were talking about engagement and so on. And I think we must constantly try to encourage people that if they have a theme that they would like you and I to discuss, THEME, a theme, right? That they would like you and I to discuss, we can research it and then, or if while we're talking about any particular issue, they have a question on that issue. For example, I was just talking about a nuclear war. What really is a nuclear war and what does it mean? How is it different from conventional warfare, for example? And so people, you have questions and so on. Please interact with us. Please share the live, all of you, and tell people this is not some sort of program where we are not dealing with solid issues. It's the contrary to that. We are dealing with solid issues, and this is what we want to do here. I would not spend 2 hours of a Sunday evening of my time wasting my time. Believe you me, the promotion of Pauline alone is a 48-hour a day job to get this thing done. I have spent $30,000 producing this book up to this point. 30,000 US dollars. You understand what I'm saying? So to get this book out to the world means a lot to me. 30,000 US dollars is a lot of EC dollars, and as you know, right? But I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about the time that I have to invest in this. So when we invest in this, we would really want you to be a part of it in every way, shape, and form, because it is about you. I'm not doing this program for me, and I'm not doing it for CN. Totally. I'm doing it for C, and it's his program. I am here to help him. But we are doing this for you. Well, probably I'm talking out of turn. So if I'm wrong, C, and correct me on that.
No, I mean you're absolutely right, Richard. I mean, you've been here, and individuals who interact with me, generally speaking, my family and close friends and so forth, have an idea of how busy I am over here. And sometimes I do not leave my residence for days to even peep outside, because there is so much work, so much work I have to do for my program. But yet, I spend an hour on a Thursday night, well, Friday morning, when I should be sleeping at 2 a.m. I'm up doing this until 3 a.m. On Thursdays. And I spend also another 2 hours on Sunday. And to produce these programs, especially if I don't have a guest, to get clips and so forth, it does take time. And so and it's of course completely free. I don't do ads and so on. And so naturally, this is a labor of love. This is a labor of love, and it's a labor of love because I believe that people play their part in different ways. Individuals are athletes, and they represent St. Vincent and the Grenadines through athletics like Shafika Maloney and Handel Roban and so forth, or through football like Vincent Heat or netball like Vincent Jewels, and different sphere. They're able to do it formally as diplomats like ambassadors Bowman and King and Consul General McIntosh and High Commissioner Lewis and so forth in the formal sense. And in other at other levels as well as public servants. I see this as my own role in heightening discussion, the national discussion, and challenging people to think beyond their own biases and look at things from a global context and see how they impact us nationally. And so the discussion where everything is localized and trivialized and politicized in a very partisan, parochial way. Hello?
No, I was just adding to what you were saying. Everything is politicized and tribalized.
Yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes. In a very parochial way. It's something that I want us to move from. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a political opinion, because of course you do, and I do as well. And I'm not shy about my own political opinion and my own political biases. However, context matters. And so when we come here and we bring on James Schneider, who is an Englishman, to speak about politics in the UK, it's to contextualize it within our own circumstances. And when I bring on, uh, a young lady from Spain and speak with Dia about internship, it's to helping centuries to understand the opportunities that exist out there. And when I bring my friend on from the army to talk about enrollment, all of these are things that impact us either directly or indirectly. When I talk about scholarships available throughout, uh, uh, um, because of the foreign policy of citizens and Iranians in different lands, again, context matters. And so these are the type of discussions we're seeking to have. And I really hope that individuals understand and appreciate what we're doing and
mhm.
see it for what it really is, that labor of love that is intended to challenge our own the status quo and have us to think beyond where we would normally think, to see things in its wider context.
And before I say what I want to say, I just want to respond to McGregor. Yes, McGregor, I agree with all of what you're saying here. Issues of public transport, and we know what is happening in the country. The culture, the van culture, is a terrible thing. I and CNN, CNN knows I have tackled this thing on in the newspapers and on the radio many times. I have not minced words with that. And the issue of agriculture, as you raise, and this is what I think we want to do, McGregor, and everybody on the live and everybody who's listening to this. That, seeing in our country, people like to talk from a perception standpoint, not necessarily fact. This is what I perceive it to be, rather than knowing,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
it is. This is what I think or
This is
what
what
I
I think.
believe
Yeah,
it to be. Rather than trying to find out and to know what it really is about. And so, um, the essential point I'm making here is that in a program like this, one um, could rely on us checking the facts and saying to you, well, okay, that might be a perception and that might be an opinion, but the fact is another matter altogether.
absolutely.
There's an issue that CN mentioned, which is important to understand, which is this: that we are not saying, well, I am not saying, neither is CN saying, because he has said it himself, so he's not saying that you don't have a right to your political view and to state that as openly as you wish. That is not the point here at all. The point here is that irrespective of that political view and irrespective of that opinion, we all, as seen outline, we all should make a contribution, whether it is in athletics, whether it is in football, whether it's in netball, whether I notice he didn't mention writing, probably because I don't know. But yeah, for once, it didn't get under his skin, because it gets under his skin and he starts to be
Boss,
defensive.
make a point. Make a point. Make a point.
He starts
You
to
don't know
carry
one thing
on.
about my skin except the color. You don't know one thing about my skin except the color. You don't know one thing.
This time, this time he got the
You
joke. He
don't
got
know
the
one
joke.
thing
For
about my
once he
skin
got
except
it,
the color.
For once he got the joke. I noticed he didn't mention writing, and things like that. But in Calypso, whatever it is, we all, as Age One said, we have a country to build. You understand? There is a Calypsonian name, he's dead now. His name was Michael John. We used to know him as Black Messenger. And he had a song called Two Heads Better Than One. And see, and allow me just to quote this one verse from it. Well, this chorus from it. I wouldn't quote a verse. I wouldn't go that far. But he says this: So we must unite together hand in hand in unity. For it is more than time that we see the need to determine our destiny. So don't go and hate your fellow man. Make him realize that we all are one. And in order to find a solution, remember two heads better than one. And that is why there are two of us here tonight. Sian will tell you we don't always share the same view. Sometimes we argue bitterly over it, especially when he's drunk. But I mean, don't let that get on your skin, Sian.
I
Don't
don't
let that get
understand
under your
why.
skin,
I don't
Sian.
understand why
Don't let
this
that get
young
under
man
your skin, Sian. Do not
decides,
allow it to
always
get under your
decides to
skin.
come on my show and spread propaganda, especially when he understands that there are people who
but,
are watching this show
but
and who would listen to me. Eh? Okay, good. You go on.
but yeah, that's the whole thing. And then there is a Benson Jasp on the line. Good night to you. And he's mentioning a very important thing: the diaspora in the UK and so on, right? And their own role in the development process. The point is that at the end of the day, St. Vincent and the Grenadines belong to all of us. It is our home, it's our rock. And when I say rock, I mean rock in the sense that it is on which we stand. It's where we started. And I don't want to be too indulgent, but there was another Canadian named Leader, and he was from Green Hill. And he said this: no matter where about we roam, I want you to remember St. Vincent is our home. Right? That was from Leader about 1974. Yeah, I'm that old. So this is what this is about. So CN, over to you. Kick the ball off, boss.
One. I'm still sharing. So go ahead because I'm still trying
Yes.
to put it
Now,
in different things as well. Sorry about that.
okay. Now, the other thing I'd like very much to say, and it comes from Benson Jasper. We must admit, well, I must admit that a lot of Vincentians in the diaspora are deadly loyal to St. Vincent. And for this, I am very, very grateful to these people, extremely grateful. Kojo Mason immediately comes to mind. McGregor comes to mind. Miss Sargent comes to mind, and so many others. And you people hold St. Vincent to your heart, even though you have been living abroad for such a long, long time. And even though you're citizens of other countries, and some of you actively, you are involved in active citizenship in that you actively participate in the life of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I can testify for Kojo Mason. Probably he's the only person I know who's home more than myself, probably. Because every time I'm in St. Vincent, I turn around, there is Kojo. So I wonder, I wonder if Kojo, I wonder if Kojo live, if he live in California, he live in St. Vincent. But country is always there. And the country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, owe a debt of gratitude to all of you. And the fact that you are here with us tonight, or afternoon, or whatever time it is in your part of the world, again shows that commitment. And I don't take that lightly. And I mean that. I don't
There are two
take that lightly.
individuals. There are two individuals who I never could understand. Always found the time to be on, regardless to the program and so forth. And there are many others, but the two individuals that come to mind immediately would be Kojo Mason and Evan Roberts.
Okay.
Every program on Star they seem to log on to. They're listening, and I'm wondering, guys, when do you sleep? These guys are. I mean, imagine Kojo is in California. That's, I think, well, not well,
Yeah.
that's
Hours,
3 hours behind, I
three
believe.
hours behind.
And yet you're there at 7:30 for the morning scoop. I mean, it means that you're up at 4:30 in the morning. And when there's a show in the night, you're there as well. So it means that you are sleeping. Well, you must be going to sleep early. You must be going to sleep, like, I don't know, 8 o'clock, so that you could wake up at 4:30. But it's that level of commitment, and I do, excuse me, appreciate that as well for all of those individuals in the diaspora who engage actively in Vincentian affairs. And I'll say this: while I address the issue and speak directly to Kojo and Ev and Tika and those people who I know from my own experience through Morning Scoop and Star programs. It happens right across the board. And so there are people who are not logged on to our program, but are logged on to Hot 97 or Boom or Nice Radio, and are also quite involved and do their bits um, from their standpoint in aid of SVG. I may not agree with a number of them politically, especially as regards their expressions, but I would be honest enough to admit that they too do get involved in their own way in supporting the Vincentian cause.
Yes. The thing I think is so, well, for me, is so touching to me personally. You know, when you see this thing, in particular, is when something happened to St. Vincent, a storm hit or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And all of these people just come raging on to help, and doing what they can to help, and getting the message out there. And then the prime minister appears in New York, and there's no standing room only. You know what I mean? People come to engage him, whether against him or for him. You know what I mean? But they come to engage him. And then our athletes go to the pen relays, and you see the Vinci flag there. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? They
Mm-hmm.
come out
Mm-hmm.
there
Mm-hmm.
with their heart for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And these things touch me deeply. These things touch me really, really deeply. And so this is why I mention it. And this is why they're here tonight as well, So, yeah, that's what I wanted to say, Sian, as an intro.
All right, fantastic. All right, so we spent quite a lot of time on this show with the intro dealing with a number of ancillary matters, and I hope you guys don't mind. But today I wanted us to focus a lot on. Well, by the way, Richard, my show last Thursday, I dealt substantially with the issue of the van culture
Yes.
and put some ideas out again as to how I think we can regulate the industry, because I think it does need regulating, and that's the biggest problem where that is concerned. So we dealt with that. But today I wanted us to deal with global affairs, specifically the just concluded United Nations General Assembly high level week that occurred in New York. And if anything substantial jumped out at you, you mentioned the brink of nuclear war. And so naturally we would discuss the broadening of the Middle Eastern conflict, or rather the Israel Gaza conflict, which now has been expanded to include Lebanon, as Israel tries its very best to include Iran, to try and trigger a response from Iran, in an attempt at pulling the US and the UK even more into this conflict. Um, and there are other issues as well. But I think we can start with the UNGA and some of the things that stood out uh, to you. I don't know if you were able to listen to Dr. Gonzalez's
Oh,
presentation.
definitely. Oh, definitely. Oh,
I
definitely.
wasn't able to listen to it live, but I've listened to it since.
No. I
And
listened to it live and then I listened to it again.
okay, and then if you were also able to listen to any other, like
Yeah.
for example Mia Motley and so forth,
I
and
listened to it live and I listened to it again.
okay, and so if anything specific jumped out at you, but one of the themes that ran through both Mia and Dr. Gonzalez and many of the CARICOM leaders is that of climate change and the existential threat it poses on us as the
Hmm.
people, and the indifference of the international community to those threats, and how we address them. Uh, Painting it in the broader context of SIDS, not just Caribbean, but SIDS, the 32 island SIDS that make up the AOSIS. And so that was there. As always, Dr. Gonzalez was strong on his rebuke of neocolonialism and the threats on countries' sovereignties, countries like Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, uh, calling for some consistency in um, the world to address issues as relates to the Ukraine Russia conflict, in his words, the Gaza genocide, and the issues relating to Sudan and so forth. So there's a lot to unpack. So for many individuals who I really want to cut those clips out, but today was a busy day for me, so I didn't get to cut the clips out. But there's some really riveting stuff coming out of Dr. Gonzalez's address. But Richard, again, as I said, I want us to just look at that, and if there's anything that jumped out specifically, we could also talk to the fact that we have increased flights from October in St. Vincent and Grenadines. That is something that is also important. We talked with Annette last week, and we discussed that. But if we want to also address local issues, we can do that. But I just thought that the issue of the global issues, with this being the high level week of the United Nations General Assembly, um, that because Richard, you could give a deep explanation, but the UNGA is really a 1 year long program. But what you have in September is what you call the high level week, where the for that 1 week the the heads of states and heads of government and so on come to address. But after that week, the actual war continues within the General Assembly for the entire year. That is why they are numbered the 74th and the 75th and the 76th UN General Assembly. So what you have is a high level debate that takes place in this week. And so what we have just concluded is the high level debate, but the actual session continues until September next year, when you'd have the same week, and during that time you'll have a new president of the UNGA installed and so on and so forth. All right. So Richard, let's start with, first of all, framing the context of this year's UNGA high level week, the conflicts globally and some of the issues, even the general elections of the pending general elections in the US, and the rise of the far right across Europe. The UNGA this year has taken place within that context. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Well, seeing there's a lot that can be discussed and can take a year. But I want to do two things. Firstly, I hope that we can keep the discussion of these global issues directly related to St. Vincent, so that
Absolutely.
Vincentians could see that
Absolutely.
these things have something to do with you, every single one of you in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's the first thing. But secondly, I want us to have an appreciation that because it has something to do with you, you should know, you should be fair, you should be educated about it in such a manner that at home, okay, when we talk of politics, when we talk of policy, when we talk of the development of the country, these things are not, we are not blindsided to these things. In other words, we know that they affect us. So, for example, just before we go into the gym, so for example, a war breaks out in the Ukraine, okay, and all of a sudden everything in St. Vincent become more expensive, right? And then you hear that how the government is doing so bad, and you understand Israel's fault, and so on and so on. And people don't understand a very simple thing. That war affects so many things. In the first place, oil prices, okay? And everything is made with oil. Oil is the energy that makes everything, right? And once your oil prices go up, your biscuit go up, your bread go up, your everything go up. You understand what I'm saying? But then the shipping lanes that causes, you understand, this kind of thing, the shipping, are also affected. Again, that is going to cause scarcity. And what happens when scarcity happens, Ian? Prices go up. Okay. But then again, a lot of the merchant ships are then converted into military ships sometimes, or they just simply can't run because the lanes are not safe, and trouble again. But then again, Ukraine, for example, produces a lot of the world wheat, which is used to make bread. You understand what I'm saying? Right? And now that changes the whole makeup of Ukraine. Now forgets about making bread because it has to use all of its money to build weapons and so on and so on. And the prices rise. You understand what I'm saying? And that happens across the globe, you know? And so, but at home now, our people are not educated about this. They don't know this. They don't see this. And so it's easy for a propagandist or for a popularist to tell the people, well, you see what happened now? The government, you know what they're doing. You understand what I'm saying? Right? Now, this is not to defend the government or to speak for the government, but rather to explain to you that we live in this neighborhood. Now let's come to the General Assembly. Well, see, and the first thing that stand out to me, never mention it. When Bibi Netanyahu, his name is Benjamin, but we call him Bibi. When Bibi get up to talk, people do so. You understand? Right? And that showed me that international morality is not totally lost. You understand what I'm saying? That people haven't totally lost their feeling of humanity. Because Israel, you could square it anyhow you want, and you know it's CN. You know the terminology, you know how genocide is defined, right? In the Declaration in the Convention of 1948, the Convention on Genocide. And Israel is committing genocide in Palestine. Now, you might say to yourself, well, hold on. So what I have to do with us Vincentians? What does it have to do with it? We're not Palestinians and we don't live there. Well, you see, we come from a history of slavery. And it was a battle for us to become free and to begin to humanize ourselves. And we are part of humanity. And we are a very, very tiny country. And if anybody in this world decided to ignore international law and just do what they want with us, we can't stop them. And the only thing that could stop them is international morality. And the rest of humanity saying, no, you cannot do this to a tiny nation. That is the only thing that can stop them. So the Palestinians are us, and we are the Palestinians in that sense. And we must understand it. I always say it amazes me that any black human being, especially in the Americas, can support what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. You understand? And it directly relates to us in other ways. So as I have said, because of this battle going on, right? You have the Houthis in Yemen, okay? And they pelted rocket right, left, and center. Okay, so to go up the Strait of Hormuz, which a lot of oil come through, is a dangerous thing. And once that become dangerous, what happens to oil prices? Oil prices, they skyrocket. And what happened to inflation after that? Same thing again. You understand? But outside of that, what we have to understand is this, Ian, that a lot of oxygen, economic oxygen, right, which should go into the whole economy to make it run, is now being used for war.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
understand?
yeah.
And once that happens, St. Vincent and the Grenadines suffer. The soft loans, grants, etc., you understand? These become harder to get. But let's come back to the GA. I just have to say that. So that's the first thing that struck me.
No, no.
That,
Before you go on, Richard, and you talked about the pompous arrogance of the Israelis within the GA. I mean, their ambassadors have insulted everybody in the UN, from the Secretary General come right down, and anyone that who dares question the the murderous onslaught of Israel on the Palestinians are anti-Semitic and all of those type of things.
yes,
But I was looking at one of my favorite commentators, a young man by the name of Mehdi Hassan, and I call him a young man because he's younger than I am, although he doesn't look that way. And he has this. He worked with MSNBC. They fired him because of his reporting on Palestine. So he started his own agency called Zeteo, and he was debating a gentleman called Ilan Levy, who was the spokesperson of Israel. And one of the things that he said in that debate, which really jumped out at me, he said, it's amazing. The line of Israel is simply this, and the West. Nothing, nothing at all justifies what Hamas did on October 7th. Now, one of the things that Antonio Guterres and others have said is October 7th did not happen in a vacuum.
no,
The war
certainly,
didn't start on October 7th. The conflict didn't start on October 7th. There's a lot of things for 70 years that have been happening.
precisely.
But they say nothing, nothing justifies what happened on October 7th. However, in true hypocritical fashion, everything that Israel has done, including murdering over 40,000 people, everything is being justified. by October 7th.
Precisely.
So when they talk about what they're doing, oh, on October 7th, Hamas did this, on October 7th, and so Israel had to. So while nothing justifies the killing of 1,200, well, even less, because Israel killed quite a few of their own and a lot of the more military combatants and so on. While
Well,
nothing
just
justifies that, they're using that to justify everything that they've done and the
yes.
genocide on Gaza.
Well, you see, the facts are there now, and there are videos of this. The majority of killings done on October 7th was done by Israel itself. Israel killed its own citizens.
Yes,
Those are
yes,
proven facts now.
yes.
Nobody doubts that. You understand? Nobody doubts that now. Now, but I want to make a point in all this GA business and this whole the question of the Gaza genocide could take up the whole program. You know that the
Yes.
whole program and more. We can do that, but I just want to say this is something very very significant. We must understand when Benjamin Netanyahu got up to speak. Mia Mottley was sitting on the right of the room. She could have easily exit. You understand? And nobody see her. You know what Mia did? Mia waited until Benjamin began to speak and everybody could see her. And she came to the middle of the hall and walked out. You hear me? That is what Mia Motley did. I have always respected Mia Motley, always. But that moment, I felt so tall as a Caribbean human being. I felt taller than Mount Everest when I saw what Mia did. You understand? Because she showed a very simple thing that the Caribbean people are not inhumane. You understand? And we will not stand for this inhumanity that is being carried out by you. We will not stand for it. You know? And Mia is a wonderful woman. And if you listen to her speech carefully, she addressed it, but she addressed it in the best of terms in my mind, without any anger, just simply saying that this is a question of justice. So that's the first thing I wanted to note. But the second thing, I don't know if you listen to the major speakers, right? Um, um, some of them I wouldn't call name, but everybody is talking about what? War. Nobody is talking about peace. The United Nations fundamental purpose, objective, as stated in the charter of the organization, is peace. And nobody is speaking about peace. So that struck me like a bombshell. And the only people who were talking about peace seem to be, in any really fundamental way, you know what I mean, seem to be people from what is called the global south. You follow what I'm saying, Sian? Hello, you there?
Something just happened. I'm back. Yes. Sorry about
Yes,
that. Yes.
right. And it's only the people from the global south, but everybody from the global north is talking what? War. Listen to their speeches. They're talking war, and it was fundamental to note Russia's stand. And so I come to Keir Starmer with this GM. Russia made it clear: if you give Ukraine the right to use long-range missile to hit cities in Russia, we're going to have a nuclear war. So an organization, you understand, which was designed to speak peace and to guarantee international peace and security, became the platform from which war is being preached. That is what happened at the gym this week. And the implications of those things for St. Vincent and the Grenadines is massive, but we are tied up in our narrow little bubble at home, and we don't see how these missiles are going to affect us. Now, listen to me. You yourself made it clear, because you listened to a couple of the speeches, and we're not interested in fighting no war with nobody. We can't fight any war with
Exactly.
anybody.
Exactly.
What we're interested in is an existential question called climate change.
Yeah.
You understand? And how we are going to address this business. You understand? That is what we are concerned with, From a standpoint of violence, we're concerned with two things. and Ralph addressed them, and so did Mia and others. One, Haiti. How do we fix that? You understand what I'm saying? And two, the tonload of guns pouring in from the United States into St. Vincent and everywhere else. Just this week, we know of more shootings. St. Vincent don't make a single gun, my brother.
None, none.
Not a single gun does St. Vincent make. You understand? But we Vincentians don't see the connection in these things. We don't. We don't understand that the United States of America, Britain, and so on are willing to spend billions of dollars to kill people. You understand what I'm saying? To have a war with with Russia, to have a war in what is called the Middle East, which is actually Western Asia. You understand? And to stroke war with China. You understand? They're willing to do that, right? And the few halfpenny copper, to use Vincentian language, the few halfpenny copper necessary to fix climate change, nobody is willing to deal with that. You
Imagine that,
understand?
eh? You listen
Right?
to the millions and the billions that they're spending on arms sales. The US is sending to Israel, and the UK is sending to Ukraine. And it's interesting because just recently they took away a subsidy, a winter subsidy for pensioners,
They took away two of them. Two of them.
but they're sending money for war in Ukraine. I mean,
They,
that to me, I can't fathom that. At a
and
time when their most St. Vincent and the Grenadines spends money to shore up the vulnerable, to broaden the safety net. You increase the public assistance and so on and so forth. In the UK, the government, a Labour government,
a
is
Labour
taking away
government.
a subsidy from pensioners, people who have worked, contributed to their country, and are now on a pension and get a subsidy to assist with their heating at a time when it's most critical. I listened to a young parliamentarian, a young MP in the UK, refer to it as being less rich. And the person interviewing him said, "What do you mean less rich? These people aren't rich to be less rich. They are poor. And your government's policy is driving them in further and further into poverty. And while they're taking away money from poor people to assist them with heating in the winter, they're sending millions to Ukraine. I can't understand that."
You know, the you put it absolutely correctly. A Labour government is forcing pensioners, people who have contributed to building Britain as we know it today, to choose between eating, right, or heating. In other words, to choose between starving to death or freezing to death. That is what the British government is forcing its people to do, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
You understand? To fight a war in Ukraine. The British government has guaranteed Ukraine $3 billion a year forever. Forever. $3 billion a year. Keir Starmer, I mentioned something earlier today. We'll come back to German in a moment. Keir Starmer went
GA.
to America, you know. The GA,
Well,
sorry. Keir Starmer went to America, you know, to ask Biden, you understand, to allow them to give Ukraine the okay to hit Russian cities with long range missile. Somebody in the White House made it clear. All you think Putin bluffing. You're making a mistake. He ain't bluffing. This time, Mr. Putin is not bluffing. And if you hit him, we're going to have a nuclear war. That is what stopped nuclear war, you know. Check it. Don't believe me. Check the facts. That is what stopped a nuclear war. You and I might not be here tonight if America was stupid enough to say yes. If America was stupid enough to say yes, we might not be here tonight. You understand? We might not be here tonight. Now, let's get back to this.
And that goes back to something that James Snyder made the point of when he was on, when you asked him who controls Britain, and he said, "Look, Britain's foreign policy is essentially a directive of the US. Basically, they follow in lockstep whatever the US says, and so now it shows they have to go to the US to get permission, and the US said no permission, and so that's it, done."
Yeah. And you remember what I asked him, right? I asked him, but who owned the British government?
Yeah.
Do you remember I asked him that question?
Yes. Yes.
Who own
Yes.
the British government? And certainly, it is not the poor people of Britain. It's not
Of
the
course not.
masses of Britain
Of
that
course not.
that
Of course
owns the
not.
government. So back to this GA business. It is clear to me, and I don't know if you figured it out, but certain countries, and because I say I want us to discuss the GA within the context of St. Vincent, so that
Yes.
Vincentians understand what it means to them. You understand? Not no broad atmospheric discussion,
Right.
but rather a concrete discussion that relates to St. Vincent. If you note, Barbados, Trinidad, St. Vincent, Antigua, you understand? They all stood up and said, look, these are our concerns. And they were concrete concerns. Climate change, the international financial architecture, you understand? And how you deal with that, you know? And the survival of small island states, you know? They were very, very, very clear about it. They were also very clear. Look, you see this war business? Let we stop this war business, eh? You know, because it is sucking too much economic energy out of the world. Now, if you look very, very, very carefully, you would see that these people were dealing with the principle that, look, the world, this is a question of survival for all of us, right? We're the ones feeling it now, but it will come to you sooner or later, right? Some other people went to the UN and all they were preaching is their dominance. I don't know if you noticed that, right? So anybody who does not agree with them, you understand what I'm saying, needs to be liquidated from this planet. That was their argument. You have to sit down and analyze it carefully. Now, the question is this. This is the question. Let us put it in very simple terms. St. Vincent and the Grenadines built an international airport a few years ago. Do you remember where the majority of that money or help came from?
Yes.
None of it came from these people who are preaching war. Not a cent of it came from there. You understand what I'm saying? Not a cent came from them. No, sir. Right? A matter of fact, one politician once said, if we take the money from Venezuela and so on to build the airport, what will America say?
America say, yeah.
What would America say? You understand? Now, what we have to understand is that when you go to, this is what I want Vincentians to understand. When you go to the GA as the leader, because remember, most of them don't ever send some foreign minister or something. It's the president himself just come
Yeah.
most of the time,
Yep.
the big
Yep.
boy himself.
Yep. Yep.
And when you see him begin to speak, it's an article of faith, not faith, Faith, but faith, Fate. This is what we're going to do. If I'm supposed to make this clear, Donald Trump said what? America what?
First.
First. You understand? It's an article of faith. This is where we're going to go. You understand? This is what is going to happen because we're the boss, right? And you made a very, very important point, but you didn't say it in very clear terms to the people. So I'll say it for you. You mentioned Israel treatment of the United Nations. An ambassador of Israel said the building should be blown up. He actually said that. This is a useless organization and we need to blow it up. An ambassador of Israel said that. Right? Now, let's come back to the article of faith. Fate, sorry, faith that we're talking about. You see, when you see these leaders come here, when you hear Prime Minister Gonzalez go there and he says, look, we come here and Haiti is our concern. You understand what I'm saying? And we come here because climate change is our concern. And we come here because the international financial architecture is wrong. You understand? And graduating St. Vincent to a place where St. Vincent does not belong, etc., etc. These are articles of faith, Fate. You understand where we want to go. And what Vincentians must understand, Sian, is this, that when America sneezes, St. Vincent doesn't catch pneumonia, it dies from pneumonia. You hear me? A sneeze from America, and St. Vincent dies from pneumonia. And so when we talk of the GM and what happened this year, what I personally can say is a question that you have asked me and which we have agreed to discuss sometime in the future. What is the use of this institution? You seriously have to ask it. You understand what I'm saying? You seriously have to ask it, what is the use of this institution? Let us be clear here, CN. Did Ron Gonzalez walk away with any guarantee whatsoever that they are going to address
None.
climate change?
None.
Right?
None.
Did he walk away with any guarantee whatsoever that we're going to tackle the issue of Haiti? Did he walk away with any guarantee that we that the financial infrastructure is going to change? You understand? And so be more suitable for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Did he walk away with an understanding that okay, these people understand what he's talking about, our vulnerability? You understand? None of that. None of that happened. Okay? None of that happened. So you have to ask the question that you asked me. What is the use of the General Assembly? What is the use of the high level session of the General Assembly? If all that it preached the 79th session is war, and the people who need some kind of help, you understand what I'm saying? There is no help that comes to them. So you must ask this question. You have to ask it, right? And therefore it comes to the other question. Is it useful for St. Vincent to spend its money? You understand what I'm saying? To send a prime minister up there and, his foreign minister and a couple of other people. You must have to ask those questions if you're serious. And the answer to it is yes. It is necessary. At least you get your voice to be heard. You know why? Because all the other big boys there. You understand what I'm saying? All of them come there. That is the first reason why. You might never get to speak to them anytime at all, ever, before or after, but they're in the room there now. You understand what I'm saying? And this is what I want to drive home here. You could show to them your disgust in their behavior, the way Mayor Motley did when Bibi Netanyahu started talk. You understand what I'm saying? He saw it for himself. This is the prime minister of Little Barbados saying, listen to me. You understand? Stop the murderous gangsterism, the genocidal gangsterism that you're involved in Western Asia, that some people call the Middle East. It is worth it. But it's also worth it because at times we get to inch along somewhere. You understand what I'm saying? And even if them, the big boys, don't listen to us, sometimes the middle countries might listen. Iran and whoever else might listen. You understand what I'm saying? But it also is a place where we can formulate common policy in one way or the other and express that as from a global south standpoint. You understand what I'm saying? So, for example, we in our own little bubble in CARICOM talk about this, and it's CARICOM. But then when every CARICOM leader go up to the United Nations, you understand, and repeat it time and time again, this is where CARICOM stand, and we will not be moved. You understand what I'm saying? We will not be moved. So from that standpoint, right? There's several things that Vincentians must understand. As I say, I want to speak within the context of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and not in some atmospheric fashion. I want Vincentians to understand that. The first thing, one, we make our concerns clear on the world stage for everybody to hear. You understand what I'm saying? Who want to listen? That is the first thing. Secondly, as I said, we meet there with the like-minded people, whether they're from Africa or from Asia. You understand? And we express those positions commonly. That's the second thing. The third thing is that the big people and the big boys know that, yes, even publicly, we will tell the public, the whole world, that we don't stand with you on these issues. These are the issues we are concerned with. You understand what I'm saying? So nobody has to guess where we stand on the matter. Everybody know where we stand. As Mayor Motley said, we welcome Palestine as a new member, you understand, of the General Assembly of the United Nations, a state taking its seat. You understand what I'm saying? We are making this clear to the world. Fourthly, when we go to the General Assembly like that, it is the one place. St. Vincent doesn't have a lot of money, you know. It's a poor country. And it's the one place where Ralph and whoever else could meet with 10, 12 different leaders. You understand what I'm saying? Rather than having to fly all over the world. You understand? And they're all there. You understand? You don't have to make no big set arrangement. Everybody there. You just see what will work and what you understand, who you could meet and who you cannot meet, and so on and so forth. Right? That is a crucial thing to understand. Finally, when we talk of the General Assembly, you must understand this. It is the one time in an entire year. As you said, the assembly goes on, you know, all the time. You understand what I'm saying? But it's the one time in the entire year where we the people from the south, or the poor people, or the smaller nations, if you want to put it that way, it is the one time in the year where we plead our entire case to the entire world. One time. There's no other place like that. None. There's no other forum like that. You understand what I'm saying? Where we plead our case. And that is the crucial issue here. So the question as to the usefulness of things like that, I think is a serious discussion you and I have to have. I really think so. And we should come back here and want to talk about that. But as you know, we could talk whole night about that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But the significance of it, the importance of it, is something that we have to ask ourselves. Now, lastly, you will agree that over the last 50 years, let's say, right? Because the United Nations came into being in 1945. So over the last 50, well, it's in existence 79 years, but over the last 50, 60 years or so, the United Nations has been a place where people rally and use. So, for example, the freedom of Mandela and apartheid in South Africa. You understand what I'm saying? The United Nations was a place where people brought that kind of thing there, you know, and it's out here to galvanize people internationally. The United Nations, as you know, from the 1960s onwards, was the place where the whole international legal system for decolonization really took place. You understand? Right? This you also know. So my point is, it is not all bad. And we have to look at how useful it can be. But we do know that for it to be as useful as it should be or can be, there must be changes to it. But the General Assembly is the place where all the big boys come, and that is why it is important.
Now, we looked at it in a broader context. So let's get into some specifics of the discussions. One of the things that Dr. Gonzalez raised, and Mia Motley Antigua would raise, because two very important conferences were held, one in Barbados that came up with an outcome document, and one in Antigua, also SIDS document,
Yes,
addressing the way the International Monetary Organization, the monetary
yes,
architecture, the Bretton Woods system,
yes,
deals with countries like St. Vincent and the Grenadines
yes,
and their access to concessional financing. And so
yes,
we are termed middle income countries using a system of gross domestic product and so forth to determine where we are. The Antigua and Barbuda conference, as well as the Barbados conference, along with SIDS, came up with an idea of something called a multi-vulnerability index that
yes,
says, look, you have to look beyond the simple economic metrics of GDP, but
mhm,
look at other things such as the vulnerabilities that these countries face, and things like climate change and other exogenous issues would come into play.
yes,
But for some reason, there seems to be serious resistance from agencies like the World Bank and the IDA and so forth to really embrace what these small islands are talking about. Do you think that with the what's the word I'm looking for, with the push, I'll use that word because that's not the word I want, but with the push, the advocacy
Mm.
that has come out from SIDS about the
Mm.
MVA, do you think that uh, we are any step closer to seeing an acceptance of this by the world financial architecture, the Bretton Woods architecture?
Um, if you listen to Mia Motley and you listen to her carefully, you will have to say that there have been some baby steps towards changes, right? And how the special John rights are used, for example, in the IMF now, okay? And this battle that um, the price we pay for borrowing money and things like that, right? Now, according to me, there has been some movement, okay? There has been some movement, but it's far from what it should be. So, for example, a country like Ghana borrows at 9%, right? Interest rate. But a country like Britain borrows at 2%. You understand what I'm saying? How does that work? How does that work? Britain is a major industrial economy. You understand? Britain exploited Ghana for so many years. You understand? But the interest rate given to Britain when they borrow, you understand, right? Is is 300-400%
Almost
lower than that.
one
You
fifth
understand?
of what, yeah.
Of what Ghana has to pay. You understand? And you have countries like, let's take St. Vincent. If you listen to our Minister of Finance, the present minister, and you and I have discussed these things a little bit privately. Okay, St. Vincent might be looking like it's doing well now, and tomorrow morning you hear Hurricane C and hit St. Vincent, bang, knock out the entire.
Nothing
You
wrong.
understand
Gonna
what
be a
I'm
nice
saying?
hurricane. The hurricane they go hug up house and so on. They're not gonna be a nice hurricane. They're
Right?
gonna
But
do nothing.
you can hear Hurricane C and lick up St. Vincent, and the entire GDP, you understand, is wiped out. Okay? The entire GDP is wiped out. Or you might hear that we have a great flood. You know what I mean? And wash we have the country in
Mhm.
terms of its industrial product or whatever. You understand? Or its agricultural product for that matter. Right? And so these vulnerabilities must be built in to any sort of loan arrangements. You understand what I'm saying? Being
Mhm.
made to these countries. That's the first thing. You understand? Secondly, you can't be arguing that, oh, the GDP is this, and because GDP is this, okay, we will ignore every other factor, including the size of the country. You understand? And including its industrial, agricultural, or tourism base, for example. You understand? Ignoring all of that, right? And the vulnerabilities of all of those things. So, for example, Sian, no hurricane hits in Vincent. Okay, fine, we good. No drought hits in Vincent. So, fine, okay, fine, we good. But then guess what now? A COVID-19 hit we and the tourism industry shut down. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You get the message, right? And therefore, the financial architecture does not suit these countries as regards their vulnerability. And we must understand it. So when we hear Ralph say he is going to argue with them and say, listen, this kind of loan arrangement you're making with me, it can't work. You know? Now, think of this. Think of this. The country St. Vincent and the Grenadines as we know it today.
You know, Richard,
Before.
I wanted to hold what you're saying, and I think I want to give an analogy of the misleading nature of GDP. And I like the fact that you compared St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the US. So um, when you look at things as a percentage of GDP and GDP growth, for example, you have to look at the size of the economy first and
Mhm,
foremost. And so to put St. Vincent and the Grenadines as a middle income country in the same league with let's say Chile, that might be considered a middle income country, is really misleading. So let's go to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and let's look at Prep school. Prep school has a junior five, a grade six class of 115 children in three streams or four streams or four classes because they probably don't stream anymore,
Yes, yes.
right? So they have 120 students in four classes with right common entrance. That means there are about 30 students in a class. The Dorchester Hill Primary School has five students in a junior five class, grade six class, with right common entrance. In common entrance, two students out of five pass for Dorchester Hill. They have, according to percentage, 40% passes.
Exactly.
In of the 120 students that went for common entrance, 40 passed,
Mm-hmm.
but that's 33% passes, 33 and a
Exactly.
third percent passes. Do you want to compare and say, well, boy, that's a Shahil did much better than prep school because that's a Shahil had 40% passes and prep school only had 33.5%. And so next year, when Dasha Shahil sends six and get three, they're not 50% pass. Only one person passed more than last year. But for prep school, they send 150, and this time 100 pass or 110 pass. When you look at the percentage, if you ignore completely the size of the classes, the number of students they sent, and only focus on percentage passes, it can be a very misleading
Mm-hmm.
scenario. And so that is what the governments are saying. When you look at simple GDP, gross domestic product, without really digging into the figures and looking at
Mm-hmm.
everything else that is related, the size of the population and all that kind of thing, it's really misleading. And so to tell me that St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Chile or Ecuador, I'm just calling some countries' names,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand.
should be on the same level in terms of drawing rights and in terms of access to finance and so on, it's completely unfair because you're using a misleading metrics. And we are
Yeah.
saying stop all of that and look at other issues, including our vulnerabilities or unique vulnerabilities, like Richard
Mm-hmm.
pointed out, floods and hurricanes and volcanoes and all those type of things. One of the statistics that Dr. Gonzalez pointed out in his address is that Hurricane Beryl is the 20th in 12 years. Is something so?
Yeah, and he gave the number. He gave the number
I
of
mean, it
yeah,
was.
that
I mean,
we
when
have
when he
played.
said that, I was like, wow,
Yeah,
we had that many. That's crazy.
yeah. You see, the man who is credited for designing the GDP, the gross national product, is a man named Simon
Gross
Kuznets.
domestic product.
Yes, the gross domestic product. Simon Kuznets in 1947, right? And Simon Kuznets himself said at that time, well, this must not be seen as the answer and the perfect metric or measurement. You understand? For economic development of of any country, we must not make that mistake. This is just a general broad thing, and if you apply it in every way, you'll be making terrible mistakes. He himself said so
Mm,
when
mm.
he designed this thing in 1947. He himself said so. You understand? So from the starting of the whole thing, the man himself who created the thing had already told us, you understand, that you can't use this as a metric, you understand, to measure everything. He himself had said that. But coming back to what we're talking about and how this relates to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So Vincentians have got to understand that, and I have to say this, and some people who are probably listening to me are going to be very angry. But what I'm saying is the truth. Quite often, St. Vincent send people abroad to represent the country. And they will sit down in those meetings the whole day and say not a single word. And they would be in the meeting for a week and do not say a single word. Why did St. Vincent send you there to represent? Why? For what reason? For what purpose? Is it that we have no interest? You understand?
Yeah,
Is
but
it that we
if we had no interest, we wouldn't pay money to get flight and hotel and that kind of thing and per
this,
diem
this,
to send
this
you
is the
there.
point. This is the point. Okay, so let's come back to the GA to close off this, because we say we wanted to. Oh, we could continue with this, but we say we want to talk about many global things. Anyway, I'm talking to close off the GA is this. I remember Fidel Castro. I read a book by him years ago, and he said, "You know, I admire the Caribbean leaders, and they're the only one. The English-speaking Caribbean leaders are the only ones I respect in Latin America and the Caribbean, except for Mexico. They say what they want to say, and they say it bravely. And they are the smallest and the weakest in the Americas. But yet, they stand up and they say what they have to say, and they say it bravely. What am I driving to? I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the Antiguan Prime Minister, but I listened to him. I listened to Mia Motley. I listened to Prime Minister Gonzalez. I listened to Trinidad and Tobago. Those were the ones and I heard Davis from Bahamas.
Bahamas. Mhm.
Yes, I heard him as well. Right? And each and every one of those prime ministers went out there and in one way or the other represent our interests. Now, as I had said earlier, we have to understand we live in this neighborhood. We live in this neighborhood. We have no choice. We are part and parcel of the globe. Now, when you go to the General Assembly as a tiny nation like ours, quite often, please believe me, quite often people don't listen to you. Oh, Bobby's went up now. Well, we ain't coming in. You understand? When
Right,
America
right.
went up,
Yeah.
you
When
coming.
America going talk and so on, and
Yeah,
yes, yeah.
when England went up, you coming.
When
But
Canada going
seriously,
talk, you could come
understand?
in. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. But I can assure you, CN, from what I have been able to see, is that the world and the GA cannot no ignore the Caribbean. What am I driving at? What am I driving at? I'm driving at the question you asked me. Are we moving any way forward with, for example, the Bridgetown Declaration, right? And we know what Bridgetown 3.0. That's where we are now, at Bridgetown 3.0. Well, my dear son, the truth is that if they weren't listening to us, we would not have been able to make the baby steps that we have made. Granted, you understand? But there are steps that we have made. And Mia Motley has been able to convince people like Macron and others, you understand, that this architecture needs to be changed. And we have been able to get some movement in the IMF and in the World Bank. You understand? And the reason for this is because we are able to go to that forum and open our mouths. You understand what I'm saying? And fight for what we believe. We will not always win, and the movement would be little sometimes, would be slow sometimes. You understand? But the movement is being made. And let me ask you this question, Sian, and answer it for all of us. For me too, I know the answer, but you're going to answer it for all of me. Is it, Nancy Vincent, if we don't go to these forums and stand up and say these things and fight, can we then take gun and force America them to do what we want?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
I
not.
rest, I rest
Absolutely
my
not.
case.
Now,
I rest.
before we move on, because there's one more thing I wanted us to look at. We wouldn't spend a lot of time on it, but I noticed this year, in my view, our advocacy for our usual allies, and especially Taiwan, in my view, wasn't as robust as in previous uh, fora. Do you agree with that, or do you have a different perspective?
Well, to be honest with you, uh, three things bothered me there. I don't know why, but I felt that St. Vincent could have been more robust as regards what is happening in Gaza. I personally felt so because this is open genocide, and I felt, but the prime minister is a wise man. He knows what he's doing. But I personally felt that we could have been a lot more robust in terms of what is happening in Gaza. Secondly, I felt that we could have been a lot more robust as regards the threat of nuclear catastrophe because it is real. Nobody's making this up. This is very, very real. Don't let nobody fool you about this. This is extremely real. We are on the road to war in 48 as we speak. Let me name them. We are on the road to war in Gaza, right? In terms of nuclear war, right? Because as you have
Israel
already
is a nuclear
pointed out,
power. Israel
you
is a nuclear
understand?
power. Yeah.
No, because you have already pointed out, Israel is trying its best to quote
Yes.
America and Britain
And Britain,
into a
yeah.
nuclear war.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Britain swallowed the pill, but luckily America said no. You understand? We are on the road to war in the Taiwan Straits. You understand? We're on the road to war there. We're on the road to war there. Because everybody's afraid of China. You understand? The rise of China. So we're on the road to war there. We're on the road to nuclear war as regards Ukraine and Russia. You understand? Russia, NATO is actually fighting a proxy war. You understand, with Russia via Ukraine. You know that very, very well. You study international relations like me. Nobody can fool you. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying. You understand? So we're on the road to war there in that situation. And we're on the road to war in the Persian Gulf. You understand? So we're on the road to war, nuclear war. And the closest we came is what I told you about Keir Starmer and them going to America and asking for permission. This is real. Everybody know it. It's no secret. Everybody know it. But we are on the road to war because regardless of who wins in America, they have promised two things. One is that they're not going to stop supporting Israel. You understand? They're not going to stop it.
Yeah.
Regardless of what Israel does, they are not going to stop it. And two, Israel is determined to provoke Iran and others. You understand? How much of that provocation will Iran continue to take? Only time
Will
will
tell.
tell. You understand? So I thought that we would have spoken more on that question. I thought we did very well as regards as regards um, Cuba, Venezuela, and Haiti. I thought we did well there. Okay. But in all honesty, I do feel that this whole issue of Taiwan, China, we had to deal with the question of the easing of tensions. You understand what I'm saying? And that was not addressed. We had to deal with the question. I think it was St. Vincent's role to also say, well, you know what I mean? There's another way around this business, and there's no need. You understand what I'm saying? For us to
Mm.
be stroking fires, which is what is happening now. You know that, and I know that. So in those areas, from my standpoint, this is only me. This is only Richard.
No, but that's the reason I asked you because, like, and I think my concern was specifically Taiwan because I think we're normally the most robust voice in the General Assembly in defense of Taiwan's sovereignty and so forth. And yes, Dr. Gonzalez spoke to the weaponization of things regarding Venezuela and how it's impacting CARICOM,
Yes.
you know. And he did speak to Cuba and the fact that the wall is on the side of Cuba with the illegal embargo and so forth. But when it came to Taiwan, I didn't think that St. Vincent and the Grenadines was this usual robust unequivocal self regarding the defense of Taiwan's sovereignty, and I wasn't sure why that was or why that is. But like you said, I'm not the one behind policy, and I don't know whether it is that's an agreement with the Taiwan government that roll back the rhetoric because maybe things are, you don't want to store up anything or what have you. I'm not sure, but I just thought that stood out to me, and that's why I raised the issue with you.
Yeah, no, but you might be right. You might be very, very right in that instead of saying, okay, let us ease the tension and stop this stroking of fire, we rather just backtrack a little bit on how much we say for Taiwan. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Right?
Right.
So it's the same strategy but being used in a different way. You
In a
could be
different way.
absolutely
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
You could be absolutely right. I don't know
Well,
because
that's why I say I study international relations, so I have a kind of understanding of statecraft. You know, I have an understanding of statecraft and
you
how it's
know.
done. So I could put it into perspective.
Yeah, no, because I honestly thought as well that with the battle that the prime minister is carrying on, which is the correct battle as regards the financial infrastructure of the world and how that affects St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Caribbean. I mean, you're graduating people who catching the royal as middle income countries. You understand what I'm saying? What kind of
Hmm.
foolishness is
Hmm.
this,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And knowing that um, um, we have Barbados 3.0, I thought that he might have addressed that in more concrete and real terms. And in particular, seeing we're just coming off of Beryl. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Right? Because that
Right.
have a direct relation. You understand? We need the money to rebuild. And this was a classic case that he could have used. And I don't know why, but I feel that that could have been a little bit more detailed. That is my view.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. All right. So we've discussed that, and there's so much more we can discuss. And maybe I need to look into inviting. I'll reach out to some of my old contacts to see who I can invite on the program to really get into those who are behind the whole architecture of the MVI, the multi vulnerability index,
Index,
and
yes.
and bring them on so we can chat with them a little bit more to see exactly what the idea is. So we look into that and see how possible that would be. All right. Now, Richard, so we shift a little bit from the GA, and I guess we did discuss the to some extent the impending or the aversion of or the averting of
Mm,
nuclear war, and also we did mention to some extent the assassination of Hezbollah leader
yes.
um, by Israel, and Israel is just assassinating people's leaders across the world in sovereign states and so forth, and seems to be getting away with it. So we touched on those things already. Um, but those actions outside of the whole context of the GA,
Mm,
and they making the world a lot more insecure. I saw someone sent me earlier today an advisory from the UK government for its own citizens in different parts of the Middle East, where they're encouraging their citizens to be alert, and already you have flights and so forth, airlines refusing to fly or pulling back flights in different areas in the Middle East, or as you call or Asia, as you call it, as you refer to it. um, those things can only help to further cripple a global economy that is just recuperating from years of problems from COVID and so forth, and then you come to the our region where we had that exacerbated by natural disasters. In our case, both hurricane and volcano. These things can only um, add further problems to what we're trying to do in our country, wouldn't couldn't they?
Well, the issue here, CN, is I don't know if you have been following this, but you hear it being mounted by the United States of America and Britain and others of the rules-based international relations. Now, what the hell does that mean? Nobody knows because there's something called international law. You understand what I'm saying, right? And everybody is supposed to behave in this international
In a particular way. Yes.
yes, according to these laws, because law, the first and foremost purpose of law is to dictate behavior. That's the first and foremost purpose of law, to dictate behavior. It tells you what you ought to do. You have to license your car. You stop when you see a red light. Okay, you don't rape women. You don't rape children. Law dictates your behavior.
You
Now
don't
you,
rape period.
excuse me.
I say don't rape period because in
Well,
the proportion of the world, man, a rape man too. So you don't rape period.
leave, well, leave me alone. Anyway, but what I'm trying to say is this: that now you have this rules-based thing, and I remember Dr. Gonzalez saying that he's writing a book or he wants to write a book
Yes.
about this new world order, and he has three questions.
Yeah.
What is the order? You understand, right?
What's new? Who gives the
What's
order?
yeah, and who gives the orders? You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying, right?
What
Right?
world? What's new? And who gives the order?
And who gave
Yes.
the orders? You understand?
Yes.
So, and this is what we're seeing here. What is this rules base? Now, what is clear to me is that the rules base is what is set by America, Britain, and Israel. And anything else doesn't matter. You understand what I'm saying? So we have an agreement that makes genocide illegal, an international treaty of 1948 that makes genocide illegal. But whether we like this or not, genocide is being financed by two prominent members of the Security Council of the United Nations. Do you understand? Genocide is being financed by two members of the Security Council of the United Nations. The Security Council, first and foremost, task is to maintain international peace and security, right? So that's the first thing. In other words, there is no more, it seems, international law. You understand? There is this rules, and these rules are being established on, well, nobody know the rules really. Nobody really know the rules. You understand what I'm saying? The rules are being made up every second according to the United States and England, you understand, and a few others, as dictated by Israel, it would seem, in the case of Gaza, you understand, and the Palestinians, right? It is the same thing. It has been going on for a while, you know. So some people wake up one morning, and whether international law say or doesn't say, the blacklist St. Vincent for selling sweet potato. Tomorrow morning, St. Vincent decide to sell what is called Irish or English potato. They blacklist St. Vincent again. You understand? So then St. Vincent said, well, you know, we're going to sell cassava. Guess what happened now? They make up this list. You understand? And St. Vincent is again blacklisted, right? And they determine who have democracy and who don't have democracy. Okay? So what do we have? What do we really have? We have now a set of rules which deny several things. One is that when the world is a multiplicity of things, they are determined that it must remain a unipolar world. We must dictate. And anybody who doesn't agree with what we dictate, you understand? Couple smoke your pipe. That is one. Two, it denies that we all have a common humanity. Some of us are better than others. And those of us who are better could kill, maim, murder, you understand? And commit genocide against those who don't fit in. We have seen it time and time again. That's two. Three, there are those of us who we are only states when they think we are. And when they don't think we are states, you understand what I'm saying? Then we are not states. So the idea of equity, inequality, and so on in international relations doesn't exist. You understand? right? And none of this is governed by rules and laws, none of it. So with no particular reason, with no save and accept you want to do it, you will wake up and say St. Vincent is dealing with money laundering, and so we will blacklist them. You
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying?
yeah,
We will blacklist them today. That is what happens. Now, you ask if this is any good. And when people behave like that, um, can this be good for us? Of course, we know it cannot be good for us. We have been discussing that tonight. We have pointed out, we have shown to Vincentians who are listening to us how do you how do you want Ukraine cause inflation in St. Vincent and then Ralph get blamed for it. You understand what I'm saying? Right? But it's more than that. Let us be clear. Let us be clear. A lot of people don't seem to understand that every single war that we have major conflict in this world, every major conflict adds to something called climate change. You understand? Every single one of them. There's no if and buts about that. And therefore, what happens now? What happens is that we fall deeper and deeper into the existential crisis that we are faced with. But outside of that, what you have in these situations is not international law, but what they call rules, or rules based, and they're the ones creating the rule.
yeah.
And guess what the rule is based on? The rule is based on their power. You understand? Their military power, their financial power. And so even things which are not military, they weaponize them. They use them as weapons. Finance and so on. They weaponize them. So what we have to understand is that St. Vincent is living in a dangerous, dangerous neighborhood. In a dangerous neighborhood. And look, you know, this is how we're dealing with politics in St. Vincent. At least some people, a lot of them. This is how we're dealing with politics in Vincent. So my house is in a dangerous neighborhood. You understand? And my children are at home and so on. And in the house, I tell them, behave yourself. I will lick you up. I will do this. I will do that. You understand? But we live in a neighborhood, right? And the shop is not in my house, The shop is in the neighborhood. The school is not in my house. The school is in the neighborhood. The bakery is not in my house. The bakery is in the neighborhood. The hospital is not in my house. The hospital is in the neighborhood. The playground is not in my house. The playground is in the neighborhood. You understand what I'm saying? And we could go on and go on. Is it that you're trying to tell me that my children and I are safe in that neighborhood? Then you're saying that we must never use the hospital. You're saying that they must never go to school. You are saying that we must never go to the supermarket and the shop. We must never go to the bakery. You understand what I'm saying? Or it's the other way around, where we say, well, boy, we need bread to survive. We need food to survive. The children might get sick and they need education. So what do we have to learn to do, Sian? Navigate the neighborhood. And if we're going to navigate the neighborhood, we have to understand what it is. You understand what I'm saying? If we're going to navigate the neighborhood, we have to understand what it's all about. So you go to the Parliament of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the foreign minister gets up and talk, and nobody is there to ask the foreign minister a single sensible question, because we believe that our existence is only within our house. And we forget, you understand, that there is a neighborhood, and that neighborhood is dangerous. Very, very dangerous. You said something earlier, Sian. I want to bring it home. I really want to bring it home. You began the program, and then we began to talk, and you say, hold on. Keir Starmer is telling the poor people, all poor people. Now, you know, poor people, all poor people. You see the little subsidy we used to give you to make sure you're warm in winter? None of that no more. You understand what I'm saying? So you either use your food money to keep you warm and so starve to death, or you eat your food money and freeze to death. That is what Keir Starmer, England, is saying to its people. Now, if England is saying that to its people, you think we could go and beg them for it to 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 for help? We be like, what? A joke you make? As they would say, do you understand the point I'm making? We have to understand the neighborhood in which we live, Sian. We have to understand the neighborhood. And this nonsense that is being preached, that when X or Y happen, oh, it's Ralph's fault. It's Ralph's fault. Yeah, bread raise is Ralph's fault. Ralph make bread raise. You understand? And so the ignorant of our country swallows that. And that perception is what takes them to the polling booth and they vote. You understand what I'm saying? That is what happens,
The thing
because
about it, go ahead. Sorry. I thought you were finished.
yes, because we are ignorant, Sian, you understand, of these things. Now, tonight, I hope the people who joined us listen to us. I hope, and I saw we had a couple of comments and so on. But as I've said many times, people should ask us questions on these things. These are important issues that every Vincentian need to understand. Before you
Well,
come in, okay, go
uh-huh.
ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Go
go.
ahead.
Okay. I think I wanted you to finish your point because when you're done, then I'll make what I'm saying.
Yeah, you see, uh, before we do anything else, before we run about and start to shout X, Y, or Z, let us, for God's sake, sit down and understand that, you know, St. Vincent has boundaries, physical boundaries. There's a landscape, you understand, and a seascape of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But guess what, Nasian? There's certain things that does not need a passport to come to St. Vincent. You understand me? Things like COVID-19, international inflation, oil prices. You understand what I'm saying? And those things, Sian, don't need a passport to come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And it's time our people understand these things. And that is what I think you and I ought to do. We have got we have gotten, thanks to our country, a little bit of training. We don't know everything. I ain't no Socrates. You understand? But we could come here and discuss these things, share these things. You understand what I'm saying? And so enlighten our people. And they enlighten us too. Back to you.
Absolutely. And the thing about it, Richard, and I'll put it another way because you mentioned it. What we have is a situation where though there is not in many instances there is a lack of understanding of these of a number of issues and how they impact us. And so what you have is individuals with ulterior motives preying on the misunderstanding of our people, and instead of assisting them in grasping what is happening, they use the opportunity to mislead them for their own selfish purpose. Explaining to someone, explaining to the regular and ordinary Vincentian the issues of inflation, the issues relevant to supply chain is problems. And like we said, the fact that when oil prices rise, everything raises, the cost of production, the cost of transport, and so forth. And ultimately, it is the end user who has to deal with all of those issues. It doesn't take anything from you to be open and honest and explain these issues to our people. However, if you see a political advantage by misinforming them and saying, listen, it's all the fault of the government, and if you elect us, we would then make all of these things better, you're really doing our people a disservice. The truth is, though, I must give Vincentians credit because Vincentians time and again have shown that they have an understanding, even if it isn't a full understanding of these issues. They do show, and you hear them speak, that they do have some understanding of these things, and they realize that what is happening is not a unique situation to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but it goes beyond our boundaries. Finally, on that matter, I also find it, we talk about Vincentians who are engage in active citizenship. And too often, you have just this afternoon, or earlier, let me not say this afternoon, I was having a discussion with a Vincentian living here, and we were talking about some of the prices at some retail prices that Vincentian consumers have to pay.
Mm.
And the individual talked about taxes and the government taxes. And I had to make the point. I said, listen, the taxing situation in the UK is worse or higher
Mm.
in every respect
Every
than in St.
single one.
Vincent and the Grenadines.
In every single one.
The tax situation is higher in every respect
Single one. In every single one.
than in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the
It is
truth is,
it is the case of Germany as well.
exactly. But yet, you'd have Vincentians who live in the UK call home and call on radio and make it sound as, oh, the taxes in St. Vincent and Grenadines, but you pay taxes to your noses in the UK. Higher
Don't
taxes than
don't
at
forget your
home.
point. Let me just make a point here. Don't forget, continue. We're talking about taxes in the UK.
Mhm, mhm,
Let, see, and you know my house. And I did renovations to my house, right?
mhm,
And so on. Listen to me. In Germany, you have a house and you put on one room on that house. You have to pay everything, cement, whatever, whatever. And then the government comes and value what that new room is, and you pay 19% of that value. So if the addition you made to your house, you don't pay everything, the carpenter, the mason, the plumber, everybody. You understand? Everything. And when they calculate all of that now, the value of it is $200,000, which in my case was more than that. You understand? 19 and 19 is what? 38? You understand? You're paying $38,000. Just so. 19%, just so, for no reason. No reason. They calculate 19% of the addition you put onto your house, and you pay that in government taxes. Those are the laws of this country. Nothing like that exists in
in
St.
St. Vincent
Vincent
and
and the
Grenadines.
Grenadines.
Absolutely not. Some people have some big houses don't even pay proper taxes. Don't
I
even pay
want
proper
them to,
taxes.
I want people to understand what I mean. There is a value added tax in Germany of 16%. So every piece of lumber you bought, you paid 16% tax. Every sack of cement you bought, you
In the
paid
UK,
16.
it's 20%.
You paid 16% tax. Every glass window you put in, you paid 16% tax. And all that is adding into the overall value. And then when you're done to that now, after you done pay 16% tax on every single item, you now pay 19% tax again on the overall thing. You hear me?
Richard,
You hear me?
you hear the opposition talk about how wicked the government is for a 16% VAT in civil credits, and you would have individuals from the UK call and agree with them, but they pay 20% here.
But you
They
know,
pay 20%.
the 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 thing I wanted you to do, because you had mentioned it, and that's why I was wrapping up 10 minutes ago or 7 minutes ago, whatever, is the airline business you wanted to
Yeah, well, we
mention.
don't have the time. We don't have the time.
We
We
don't
have
have
we
the
have
time
we
to
have
do
we
it.
have 2 minutes left before we
Yes,
finish, so we just don't
yes,
have the time. That's why I didn't go any further. You know,
yes.
but yeah, there are different topics we definitely explore. Now, Richard, if my memory serves me right, you wouldn't be on this weekend.
Next weekend, you mean? Because this weekend. I'm here this
Well,
weekend.
you know what I mean. The weekend coming up
No,
next Sunday,
no,
right?
no, I'm not on next Sunday
You don't have to
because
say why. So let's just
yes,
so next.
right.
So I'm going to have to be looking for a guest to come chill with me next Sunday because Richard will be unavailable next Sunday. But I look forward to having you the following Sunday, Richard, on the program. I'll definitely miss you next week. By the way, Richard, tonight is your birthday. Wait, Richard, happy birthday to you. Wait, today's your birthday. I still forget. Hey, I just watch up
Don't
and
worry,
see.
man. It's all right. It's
Happy
all right.
birthday. I catch it. I still catch it. I catch it. I catch it.
Somebody told you. Somebody wrote it
No,
to tell
I just
you.
look up at the time and saw September 29th. I was like, wait, today's the 29th. So I catch it. 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 I just looked
Oh
up. So my
my God.
boy, happy birthday to
Yeah,
you
man.
as well.
Thanks. Blessings,
I
man.
wish
Every
you
time.
more birthdays to come, healthy, happy birthdays to come. And with that,
Thank you.
Richard, we have to bring an
Thank you.
end to the program. Thank you so much, as usual, for staying with us for the past 2 hours. And for all those who stayed on, thank you so much for being a part of today's edition of Sunday Settie. We look forward to having you next week, and we wish you all the best for the upcoming week. Until next week, on behalf of Richard, Sion saying, have a good Sunday evening. Take care.